Hey there! Welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory, and thanks for being here today. I'm sorry we were not here last week, but I'm glad that we're back today. I see that there's a bunch of you coming in from all over. I see there might be a bit of confusion as to where we were on YouTube, but hopefully you guys will figure that out or have figured it out and are here, like Chris from Delaware and Anna from Michigan. Firehead MX from Mexico. It's so nice to see people from all over the world coming and joining us. And it was great to see all those record albums popping up last week. That is what we drew, right? Of course. Yeah, it has been nice to be away, but it is nice to be back as well. So I hope that you are ready to do some drawing or some painting or some whatever it is you would like to do today. The way that Draw With Me works, for those of you who are new to it, is I suggest a thing that I want to draw and I start drawing it, and you can draw with me, draw the same thing, or you can draw something else. It's basically just an opportunity to hang out and chat while we draw, or if you want to just watch and not draw at all, that's fine too. Dr. Hoctopus is here from Vienna, and that's nice to see. And Stephanie is in her classroom. Fantastic. Yes, Skool is back on. So we saw it in New York. Let me tell you a bit about our trip to New York. So JJ and I lived in New York for many years. I lived there since I was 12, and we just, thanks to the pandemic, ended up living here in Phoenix. And so we have not had many chances to go back and to see the city that we love. And so we just spent the last week doing that, and it was really nice. Let me just show you a few pictures from our trip. Let's see, where are those pictures? Here they are. Yes, it was my birthday. I'm ancient, and I got even older while I was in New York. But it was fun. Birthdays are always fun, and this is a fun one too. Yes, here's JJ getting squeezed. And we had a great event, which hopefully you got your invitation to, at the Bethesda Fountain in Central Park. And a lot of people showed up here, and we had some Sketchbook School teachers as well. Jedediah Doré and Gigi Chen and Suzanne Cologne. And it was great to see everybody and to hang out and to do a bit of drawing together. We will be doing more things like that in the future. So if you missed this one, don't worry about it. We'll have others. I'm not sure about it and when we'll be doing it in New York again, but we will be doing it in Phoenix. Is it this weekend, JJ? This weekend we're going to be doing, I'm going to be signing some books at the new Blick store that's opening here in Phoenix. We're all very excited about that, having another great art supply store here in town. Yes, I got to see my son, who was there with us on the trip, and my mother, who we went to visit in her house. We saw lots of our friends from New York, and we got together with them, and I saw my old buddy Tommy Kane, and saw some other people, and we ate and drank to excess. I weighed myself this morning, and it was horrifying. I was weeping bitterly in the corner and almost didn't come on camera. But yes, we had a lot of delicious food and drinks, and it was just really, really nice to experience all the wonders of New York, particularly the culinary ones. And we saw some cool art. This is in a place that we had breakfast, actually, in a hotel, and they had this piece. It was like a grandfather clock, and somehow magically, this guy was sort of behind the clock face, and every minute he would take out a marker and he would redraw the hands, and presumably does it for 12 hours a day. And then he rings the bell on the hour, so that was really cool. But I also went to the American Museum of Natural History, which has a new wing. Had some incredible macro photographs of insects that were really compelling and made me think of you all and drawing insects together. It made me think, wow, I'd like to do that. I would like to do that. Maybe one day I'll track down those pictures and we can draw from them, because they were just, when you see an insect that is so enormous and you see it really close up, it just makes you want to draw it and makes you want to paint it, because you can see all these details and it is just spectacular. Really, really cool. And then we flew home yesterday. So we got home late, well, early, in the middle of the evening last night we got home, and it is, we're back. We're back in the, it's warm here, but I have to say New York was very, very hot and very, very humid. And in a lot of ways, it just felt much more oppressive than it does here in Phoenix. So yeah. What type of insect? There are all kinds of insects, bugs, butterflies, moths, all kinds of things. There must have been 50 or 100 photos in this collection. One thing that I really loved was this. I went to the Museum of Modern Art. Actually, JJ had gone the day before, and she said, you've got to go and see this thing. So the Museum of Modern Art has this incredible installation. They just opened a new wing as well. And they have this incredible installation where an artist took all of the images of all of the paintings in the Museum of Modern Art, every drawing and photo and painting and everything that they have, and fed it into an artificial intelligence app, software, some special thing that he wrote. And then he created this installation that when you first come to the museum, it's enormous. It fills this huge room. And it also takes the data from the room itself. So the weather outside, if it's windy, if it's raining, depending on what the temperature is, what's going on in the room, how noisy are people being who are looking at this thing. It takes all of that data and it just generates an incredible image. And I'm just going to show you that image. I filmed a few seconds of it, but boy, it was really cool. So imagine this is constantly being recreated. You think it's a loop, but it isn't, because it's always going on. It's always varying. And every so often you'll glimpse something. You'll say, isn't that, that looks like, and you can sort of see a Francis Bacon in there, or you see something like that looks like Francis Bacon to me. And you'll just see these glimpses of art history kind of coming through. And they also will vary the filters. So sometimes it looks like giant balls of paint splashing around. At other times it'll look like line drawings. Just amazing, and an incredible work of art that makes you think about art and the history of art, and which is, of course, perfect for a beautiful museum like the Museum of Modern Art. So that was really great. We were only there for 6 or 7 days, and we didn't get to go to the Whitney, which we really wanted to go to. We wanted to go to the Met yesterday. It was closed. So I'm sure we'll be going back and we'll be seeing more stuff. And these are all places that I know and love and have always visited my whole life. So it's just really nice to be able to kind of have contact with these things that help to form me and my aesthetic, which are these beautiful, great museums in New York. There are great museums here in Phoenix too. In fact, going and traveling made me want to go and visit even more parts of Phoenix. Phoenix is very different from New York. The experience of being there is very different. One day I walked 17 miles, I think it was. It was some insane amount of walking. It was just endless walking. And that's what I love about New York. Was there music with that? Yes, there was music. There's a sort of ambient music almost that went on with that piece. It was really great. I absolutely urge you, if you're anywhere near New York, go to it. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do today, art-wise. First of all, I wanted to talk about Hahnemuhle, which is our sponsor today, and we're using one of my favorite things, which is their 100% cotton sketchbooks. So these sketchbooks, they just came out last year. They are gorgeous. They're watercolor paper. They're made of 100% cotton. They come in different sizes. I happen to love this little square one that I've been using for quite a while. But they're just, if you want to get yourself a really nice sketchbook, this is the one to get, because it's perfectly bound. It is thought through. Like one of the things that they've thought through, which seems obvious, but I think most manufacturers don't do it, is to have sizing on both sides of the paper. It's too often you think, okay, there's a sheet of paper that you buy, a piece of watercolor paper, it has sizing on it. But when it's in a book, you want it to work on both sides. And if you don't have proper sizing on one side, that means that the ink watercolor is going to react differently on that side. But with this book, you can work on a spread and it will be consistent across both sides. So that's one. We're giving away 5 of them. And they're actually bigger than the one. No, they're the square ones that I'll be using too. So I just love the square size. So yeah, we are giving them away. If you would like one, write to us at info@sketchbookschool.com and send us your mailing address. It has to be in the United States because we are sponsored by Hahnemuhle USA. But let us know that you would like it. Yeah, as Holly says, she loves the square size. I do too. It's just a really nice size, nice proportions, makes you think a bit differently than rectangles. So yeah, we're going to be giving them away. Kate has one too, and she likes it. How many pages are there? I don't know. There's quite a number. I can't remember off the top of my head. I really think about that. How many pages are there? I don't know. It's this thick. So you tell me. Yeah. Is it gluten-free? Well, I'm not sure what that means. Does cotton have gluten in it? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that part of it. I'm sure you can Google it and find out. But yes, it is great. It is a great book. And if you'd like it, you can write to us at our email address, or you can write to us at our post office box if you want to for some reason. All right. I also had another announcement to make, which is we're having a big sale this weekend. Maybe you got an email about it already. We're selling one of my favorite courses we've ever made. In fact, it's probably the highest quality production-wise course we ever made. It has the most teachers in it also, and it's called People Drawing People. And what we did is when we put this course together, we were thinking there's so many different ways of looking at drawing people. There's so many different challenges that drawing people can bring up, and there's so many different ways that artists solve those problems. So what we did is we took a half a dozen different kind of challenges that people have when it comes to drawing. And we said to all of these artists, each of you, how would you tackle this problem? How would you tackle a portrait? How would you tackle foreshortening? How would you tackle somebody in motion? And then we brought all these artists to a studio and we filmed them with live models going through the process of solving these problems. And then we sat down with each of them and we had a conversation asking them, what was your approach? How did you solve this? What were you thinking? What were you doing? And so what you have in this course is you have each week, I say week, but it was originally designed to be taken week by week, and you can still do it that way. You'll tackle a different subject, but you'll see how different artists do it. And then we'll sit down and have a conversation with each of them. You also get videos of each of the models, so you can watch those on a loop and you can draw them live. So it's really like a complete education, I think, in one package. I'm really, really proud of this course. Many, many tens and tens of thousands of people have taken this class and really loved it, and it's helped them to overcome that thing. We all want to draw people, and here's how you do it. So let me just show you this. So we're having a sale on it this weekend. I think it's the first time this course has ever gone on sale. It's only until Tuesday, so you need to sign up now. If you go to our website, school.tiny.us/people, or just go to sketchbookskool.com, you will learn. It'll answer all of your questions about what else is involved in the course. I think it will be very clear there. And you can also see our new website, which I'm pretty proud of altogether. Okay, now Edza is complaining because it's 16 minutes in and you're still not drawing. Edza, you could have started drawing 16 minutes ago. Why not? I'm just talking. But let's start drawing. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking of drawing, because I was in the city and I was thinking about the city and was thinking about how different nature is in New York than it is here in Phoenix. And so I thought, let's draw city critters. And this is the first one I wanted to draw. A pigeon. All right, are you ready, Edza? Let's get going. So I'm thinking that I might actually start with a pencil. I have here a 2B, or not to be, the Hamlet of pencils, and I will, I don't know, there's something about drawing with a pencil and watercolor that I kind of like the idea of. I don't draw with regular old pencils that often. I draw with colored pencils, but yeah. So I'm thinking that I want to draw two critters today, and I'm thinking of drawing them kind of looking at each other across the gutter here of this page. So let's get on with it. And yeah, so one of the teachers, as I said, we have 6 or 7 teachers in that class, and one of them is somebody who's been very inspiring to me over the years, which is Felix Scheinberger. And Felix draws with a pencil usually, and then watercolors over it. And I always really like the look of that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. About as I'm doing this, that I want to just... There are different ways of approaching this. Like, you could also you could watercolor first. Maybe that's what I'll do with my other critter that I'm going to draw, is I'm going to watercolor first. Looking at this negative space here underneath the beak, going down there. You could watercolor first, and then you could put your line in. Be a way of doing it. All right, so now let's try and place this eye correctly. So the eye is sort of here, lines up with the bottom of the beak, and it goes up to the top there. I think now I'm looking at the back here, the back of the head, and I'm seeing that the back of the head needs to be bigger. So that's better, because actually I don't mind that, because I kind of want to fill this page with this head. And then there's sort of a series of little rings here in this eye. Sort of little eyelids, are they? I don't know what they are. How a bird's eyes work exactly. And then there's the pupil. The eyeball seems to sort of be sitting inside this kind of almost like a bony little bowl there. But yeah, that looks reasonable. Reasonably accurate. But this is, of course, just a sketch to allow me to start getting into the watercolor. Like, his beak is actually kind of sharper than I made it. So I'll end up having a few extra lines that are kind of have been revised. That's okay. So like this line, like I could erase it, but I kind of like seeing the process and how I've corrected it as I've gone along. So there's the basic outline of my pigeon. We have some pigeons here in Phoenix, but nothing like it is in New York. In New York, a pigeon is just completely ubiquitous everywhere. And pulling out my watercolors and thinking that this feels like a job for Payne's Gray, probably, right? Some of this is Payne's Gray. Probably going to do some layers. But as I was saying, we have a lot more doves than pigeons here in Phoenix, and frankly, I like them more. Yeah, so I'm mixing kind of different sort of shades here. You see, some different blues, because I know he's gray, but I kind of want to make him blue. I did not do an awful lot of drawing in New York. We were very, very busy with all the stuff that we had to do. I also feel like, you know what, I've drawn New York for a quarter of a century. That was my excuse to myself. In between fits of jet lag, I was like, you know what? So I drew a few things, but I didn't do like a full up travel journal this time. But that's okay. I mean, I've done that a lot before. I don't know if you're on my, if you subscribe to my essay, you got a thing I sent out on my birthday to everybody who subscribes to the email, to the newsletter. And I sent them an essay that I'd written about my travel journal to to Oregon a few years back. And some people wrote back to me, said they liked it. Glad to hear from them. If you would like to get those newsletters, those essays, you can get them. I'll tell you about it later on. But I've been doing this thing where I just kind of review all my old sketchbooks. Each week I've been doing a different sketchbook, just kind of going back and reviewing it and seeing what I did all over the years. This is sort of interesting. So here I'm just kind of layering it. I'm just going to keep layering it to get, because you can see while his or her head is it his? I don't know, is it a male or a female? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a male because it has this extra coloring in it. I don't know. Like the head looks like it just kind of almost like a flat color, but it isn't. It's got lots of individual little tiny feathers in it. That's another thing I noticed about these insects I was talking about, these photos of the insects, when they're blown up so gigantically, is it almost looks like they have feathers on them. Or hairs sometimes, but sometimes it really looks like feathers. And maybe they are. You just never see an insect that close up to really think about that. But with that, the possibilities of that. Putting in a little bit of this green that's in here. It's almost an iridescent green, which is really quite nice. Not a huge fan of the pigeon as an animal, but every animal has something beautiful about it, even the pigeon. I'm just looking at some of the comments. What? Yes, somebody's saying that this looks too blue. That the pigeon looks too blue. Yeah, it is. It's certainly bluer than the photo is. Pigeons are more gray, and I'll probably go in with. This is gouache now. A little. It's not. It's a white gouache mixed in with watercolor, and so it's a bit more opaque. But it's nice to have the watercolor underneath it with some color. So as this dries, I'll keep building it up. I'm gonna get there and do this. I've made this beak a bit fatter than it would normally be. More pointed, could be, and let that bleed a little bit. Get a bit of texture in there. It's a fun thing about watercolor, about painting in general, is just constantly hopping around. You know, paintings can change so much over the course of the time that you make them. You know, if you took time lapse or progress photos and you got to see how they change, see all the decisions that you're making as you go. Now I'm adding a bit of teal onto this green just to make it a bit more vibrant. Maybe I'll even add a bit of gouache to that. See how the gouache makes this teal opaque so you can see it better. If you've never used gouache, I encourage you to play with it. It's really a fun medium. Like this, I'm thinking I want to just kind of blur the edges of this part of it a bit. I'm going to let this dry a second and start dealing with this rather piercing eye. Yeah, that's quite a good eye. Yeah, I have to put it. I'm a bit worried about doing this pupil and having it bleed, so I think I'm going to let it sit and dry a bit, and then go in and do that pupil. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this guy sit now, and then come back to him after this first kind of level of stuff has dried off, because it's feeling very flat to me right now. Like if you look at the photograph, his neck and chest are darker gray, and they look more dimensional. And I also didn't really do this wing here, so I want to be able to do that wing. Remind myself of that. All right, I'm going to move on, and we'll come back to this. Okay, are you ready to do this? Here we go. Another city creature. Little rat. And I think I'm going to do this rat maybe Should I draw it? Should I paint it first? No, I'm going to draw it. I'm going to draw it as well, because I want to make sure that I get it onto the page the right way. So I want to be able to look at this page and have rat v pigeon. So rats are ruling New York right now. Let's be honest. I mean, there've always been a lot of rats there. It's a big city, but there certainly seem to be more rats than I remember from the past. And we went to Central Park quite a lot, and we saw a lot of rats there. So rats on the subway. We saw rats eating garbage. But the rats in the park were quite bold and quite common. These are, I think they're Norwegian brown rats. And yeah, I had a pet rat in college. His name was Rupert. Quite a nice animal. I wouldn't befriend these city rats, though. Let's have a look at where to place that eye. It's kind of about there, I think. So this rat's face kind of seems quite simple, but as you look closely at it, you can see how much is actually going on with all the fur and the different directions and the different colors. Like he's sort of dark, and it's hard to say like what color these hairs are, because there's so much dark and light going on inside of them. So how do we approach that? I mean, I think one way to do it is to just maybe start with a kind of a base coat. Then we could go in and do some lighter colors on top. With some gouache, maybe? Or, alternatively, I could just kind of do a lot of little individual brush strokes. That might be a way of doing it. Just do individual brush strokes. Kind of build it up that way. Or you could just kind of do an overall color. Could just do pink, honestly. I don't think I'm going to, though. I think I'm just going to try seeing what it's like to just build it up. Build it up with like lots of layers of browns and maybe some whites. And see where that goes. Because there's parts of him that are darker. Fur that's darker. And of course, these pink ears and this sort of pinkish nose. In other circumstances might be cute, but he's not really cute. So I just mixed in a bit of Payne's Gray in with some sienna. And could be a bit of umber in there as well. Because you kind of want to get the feeling that it's fur. And that there's all these kind of higgledy-piggledy directions in it. Which feel kind of rat-like. Rats are not smooth and neat. They're kind of wild. So my rat Rupert was a white rat. He lived in an aquarium, not with water in it, of course, but he lived in, that was his cage. When I was back in my dorm room, I would take him out and play with him and stuff. I'd let him walk around the room a bit. He was kind of a neat and clean animal. Not messy. And one night I was lying in bed. I had a single dorm room. That was my junior year. I didn't have a roommate. And I always kind of felt bad for Rupert, like, oh, you're stuck in this aquarium. And I was lying in bed, and I looked down at the aquarium, and I realized that me lying in bed and him lying in his bed in the aquarium, that the proportions of his body size to his aquarium were basically the same as my body size to my dorm room. So in some ways I had it as bad as he did. And he didn't have to take exams, so, I stopped feeling sorry for him at that point. This is sort of a laborious way that I've decided to paint this. Feeling a little hesitant about that. I'm wondering if you're bored watching me do these endless... I'm not really trying to paint every single individual hair, I mean. It might seem that way, but here I'm just going to sort of blur it out a little bit so it feels a little like it's kind of fading away out of focus. But this is going to be one of those paintings, I think, that I'm going to probably have to work on all day. Keep coming back to it. See, now I'm putting a little bit of ochre in there, and that's nice. It's filling it in. But you see how the bottom strokes, the first strokes I put in, have dried enough that I can keep layering it. And honestly, this is in part a tribute to this paper, because it is just... It's not going anywhere. It's not too heavily textured. I don't really like cold press paper, which is really nubbly. It's not too nubbly. And it is, it can just take layers and layers of water without getting warped and wrinkled and so forth. So that's all good. Now what about his ears? What do I do about that? Maybe I'll try this. Yeah. Same with that nose. Just a little tiny bit of pink. That looks a bit too cute, but it'll relax and calm down a bit as it dries. So now I look at this spread, and this is sort of what I was hoping to achieve, that we'd have this sort of face-to-face of these two critters. But it's going to need a lot of more stuff to do to sharpen it up, because right now it feels just like the beginning, And sometimes I'll do a watercolor that I can knock out really fairly quickly. Watercolor you can work with very quickly, but I'm going to go back, by the way, to this other pigeon references for a minute. I like the fact that it's blue, but it seems a little too blue. as I was saying, there's some watercolors that I do very quickly. In this case, though, maybe it's because I'm glad to be back here at my desk after being away. I just kind of feel like I want to take my time and I want to explore a bit more. Do you know what I mean? I love to do travel journaling where you go somewhere and you draw what you experience, but sometimes it can feel kind of rushed. You know, you're with other people or you're worried that you're going to get kicked out of where you are. And it's kind of different than just being here in my studio, sitting calmly, quietly working on this. But I don't have all the time in the world because we like to keep this draw with me down to less than an hour. So I will probably have to keep coming back to this. Chris asked, do I prefer hot press paper, which is relatively smooth? Hot press paper is generally smooth. Yes, it is. It's what I prefer, particularly for drawing on. I like to draw with a pen, technical pen. It's just, I much prefer doing that on paper that is smooth and more controlled. You get like a very rough watercolor paper and it can just be messy to draw on, difficult to draw on, you know. A tiny bit of yellow out there. Right, I'm going to go back to the rat now. I hope I'm not ruining your thing by jumping around, but I want to keep working between these two different images so that I can let one dry while I work on the next one. Keep in mind that highlight's really important. Eyeball is round, but there's also like some shadow inside that eye so that it is sort of a bit more of an oval. See, now he's very brown, and so that's why I might start building up some other darker colors. And always trying to go in kind of regular patterns, but also varying the direction. So it isn't just endless random strokes. They kind of relate to each other like hairs do, but they also aren't all the exact same kind of stroke, the exact same direction. You want to kind of vary them that way so that it feels more like fur. Mine is much more of a cute teddy bear rat, I think, which is sort of what I was feeling like I wanted to do. It looks almost more like an Airedale or something in terms of its fur. Airedale rat. Still recognizably rat-like, I think. But I think what I may end up doing is putting some white ink maybe, or white gouache, and really trying to sort of, let me just show you an example of that. Like if I take a little bit of white gouache, see, I can get some more variety in there. Sort of a gray gouache, actually. So, and then I want to put the whiskers in. Probably is the last thing I want to do. Put the whiskers in. There's some rats that I have affection for. Besides Rupert, I think of Ratty, the water rat in Wind in the Willows. He's a great character. Are there any cartoon rats? There's Ratatouille, the Pixar movie. It's a nice rat. So all right, well, as I said, this is a work in progress. You can almost see the drawing is kind of close, but you see how his eye is actually curves up there? The eyeball is rounder. Mine looks a bit more sinister, scowling a bit, glaring, because his eye is not as round as the original one. So to decide later on if I want to keep that. What brush am I using? I'm using Winsor Newton Synthetic number 4. Which is holding a point nicely. But yeah. All right, well, I think I'm just going to leave that for now. I'm going to work on it some more this afternoon. Once it's dried up, I hope that my pace was okay for you today. I know I jumped around back and forth between these two images, but you can always do a screen grab of the reference at any point if you want to slow down and work at your own pace. You can just do a screen grab of the page, and then you'll have it to work at your own speed. So, yeah, it's interesting to look at the feathers. I'm trying to make them longer and more neat, right? Because the pigeon's feathers are more in a neat direction. They're more consistent, and they feel almost like a single surface, whereas the rat is going in lots of different directions. So I did make it kind of too brown. What if I put in a bit of purple? What would that be like? Yes, maybe we'll start putting a layer of purple on top of this rat, just to bring down the warm orange. That's the whole thing with this watercolor. You can just keep putting on different layers. You don't want to go too crazy, get it muddy. But if you're letting it dry in between layers, you can get a lot of really interesting textures, and you can build up your color so that there's not just a single color, but that it's a color made up of lots of different layers of color, which is much more interesting to look at. It feels much more alive and is moving. So, all right, Rat v. Pidge. Yeah, I'm a little rusty today. As I said, I drew on my iPad mainly when I was away. I did a few selfies, and I drew the Bethesda fountain on my iPad. Bethesda fountain didn't go that well because my iPad's a little old, and the battery really started to go south when I was about 2/3 of the way through. Yeah, so... And I took my sketchbook with me, and I took a set of watercolors, but I just didn't really use them. I just used the iPad because I feel like I haven't been using my iPad creatively in the last 6 months. Now that I've had my birthday and I'm a year older, I'm thinking it's time to maybe, shake things up. Maybe going back to the iPad. I find that generally when I draw with the iPad on Draw With Me, people moan, groan about it, but I like doing it. I really like the brightness of the colors, and I love layering and layering and layering. And you can do that so nicely there. And then it's become less and less like a technology thing for me, drawing on the iPad. It used to feel like it was like a computery kind of gizmo-y thing. But I think as I've learned and more about adding layers and also taking photographs of textures and putting them in, it's become more and more. Let me just grab my. And I've been using Procreate. That's usually the app that I use, but I've also been using Adobe Fresco, which is, I think it's also free. Pretty sure it's free. But it is much less of a battery hog than Procreate. So if you've never tried it, I would recommend it. Yeah, so it's like, there's a selfie that I did. And there's another selfie that I did on Fresco. And Fresco is, in many ways, if you use Procreate, you'll know how to use Fresco, or you'll figure it out. Watch a couple YouTube videos, and you'll figure it out. And then this is what I drew at the Bethesda fountain. So that's people wondering about Bethesda fountain. That was in Procreate. So. Lots of different things, different toys to play with. It's nice when you travel. Sometimes you want to take a bunch of stuff, although sometimes people complain that you filled the suitcases with art supplies instead of their clothes. But yeah, that's been my fun. So I'm just kind of looking over at your comments and seeing if I missed anything. I don't know. Good. Well, it seems like everybody was reasonably happy with what they were doing. I can't wait to see your rats and pigeons. I don't think there's a lot of shows on the YouTube that have cavalcades of rats and pigeons, which we will have next week when we come back and we share our work. So if you would like to share your rats and pigeons, please do. Put them on YouTube. I'm sorry. I guess you could put them on YouTube, but put them on Facebook, put them on Instagram, put them in the schoolyard, and make sure that you tag them, hashtag SBS Draw With Me. SBS stands for Sketchbook School, Draw With Me. And that way we can go and find them and add them to our little cavalcade. Again, if you would like to get your own 100% cotton sketchbook from Hahnemuhle, write to us at info@sketchbookschool.com. Tell us why you'd like it. That helps us to know how serious you are about wanting it. And then we will pick 5 people to get it from. Danny'sEssays.com, as I said, is my weekly essay. And you can sign up for it for free. And if you want to, you can also get my Tuesday essay where I share my sketchbooks that you might find useful too. And of course, the People Drawing People sale is going on. So please make sure that you at least go and look at our website and check it out, because as I said, this is a big sale. It is not a course we've put on sale before, as far as I can remember, and it is going to change how you draw, and it'll be useful for Draw With Me. Come back if you've learned how to draw people more fluidly, more confidently. It will definitely help you, because we draw people quite a lot here, not just pigeons and rats. So, and and feel free to subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe, then you'll know next time I put out an essay every Tuesday, a video essay, and also, of course, Draw With Me. And of course, if you give us a thumbs up, what that does is it means more people see our content, which means more people will draw, which means the world will become a better place, because it'll be full of artists instead of just, politicians. So give us a thumbs up, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for drawing with me today. Thanks for drawing rats and pigeons. I'll see you next time.